We begin with breaking news on the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago. A federal judge just set in motion the possible release of a redacted version of the affidavit used to justify the search for government documents in the former president's home. Good evening. I'm Todd McDermott.
And I'm Felicia Rodriguez. Thank you for joining us. And now the clock is ticking. The Department of Justice has just 1 week to figure out what parts of the affidavit should remain hidden.
Federal investigators argued key evidence and witness names named in the affidavit must remain secret in that ongoing probe. We have team coverage with our crews live outside the federal court in West Palm Beach and at Mar-a-Lago on Palm Beach.
We begin with our Terry Parker with more on what the judge is signaling tonight. Terry?
Well, the judge made it clear he is inclined to release portions of that affidavit outlining why the government wanted to search Mar-a-Lago. But there are valid concerns about some of the information in that affidavit. So the judge is giving the government 1 week to propose their redactions to the document and also to submit an argument as to why.
I feel good about today's hearing. Judge Reinhart seemed to have a very good sense that it is his job as the gatekeeper in this case to perform his function of balancing the interest in the public of accessing these materials against the interest in the government in keeping them secret.
Media attorneys argued in federal court Thursday that the probable cause affidavit outlining the reasons for the unprecedented FBI search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago should be released for the public good, while government lawyers said releasing sensitive information could jeopardize their criminal case and endanger witnesses or confidential sources. After hearing both sides, Judge Bruce Reinhart saying this: "I believe in my initial careful review of the affidavit, there are portions that could be unsealed."
He is not inclined to keep the entirety of the search warrant application and its affidavit under seal, meaning that he understands that the public is going to likely be entitled to some parts of this warrant application and its affidavit.
Media attorneys calling the raid one of the most significant law enforcement events in the nation's history and arguing if the reasons justifying the unprecedented search are not at least partially revealed, the public will likely lose trust in the justice system. They say the affidavit is key to understanding whether the search was justified.
So it generally will describe the nature and scope of the investigation, the nature and scope of the records sought by the government, and of course go over the details that justify taking the incredible step of issuing and executing a search warrant at the home of a former president.
The judge is giving the government 1 week until noon next Thursday to come up with their redaction proposals. If he agrees, then he will go ahead and make those redactions and release the document. However, if he disagrees, he says, well, he wins. And then he will make a ruling, maybe unredacting some of the things that they wanted. But he's not going to release the affidavit until they have a chance to appeal that ruling. So this whole thing could take several weeks. Live in West Palm Beach, Terry Parker, WPBF 25 News.